Okay. What was school like when you guys were younger?
Well, go first. What was school like?
We said the Pledge of Allegiance every morning.
And we all stood. It was not even an option. It wasn't even a thought in our head not to stand. I think it was a little bit easier than what our kids are going through now, as far as less pressure in high school grades, as far as, you know, my kids had to take a lot of AP classes or their friends were dual enrolled. We didn't have any of that. At least I don't remember having any of that.
Seemed a lot less complicated when we were kids than it is today.
Less pressure and less competition for getting into that, you know, your first choice college.
Yes.
Yeah, I bet. Mostly since you guys didn't have all that Common Core, too.
No, we didn't.
No Common Core.
No. 2 plus 2 was always 4, will always be 4, and yep, there was no complicating it.
Yeah.
Don't overcomplicate it.
How close was your family?
I came from a very small family. It was just my parents and my brother and I. And we were extremely close growing up. Very, very close.
And I have an older sister and a younger brother, and we were super close also growing up, and it trickled down to cousins that we'd see for holidays every year, and special occasions, and we always did things with extended family.
What did you guys do for fun when you were younger?
I ran around the neighborhood until the streetlights came on. Chased critters, snakes and frogs, and played in the creek. A lot of simple things. Went to the mall when I was 12 or 14 when it first opened. Anywhere I could get to on a bicycle, I was off. Played a lot of sports growing up. A lot of sports, baseball, football.
Motocross?
Yeah, I started racing motocross after that when I was 12 or 13. Did that every weekend for 5 years, but a lot of outdoor activity. Everything I did outside.
And then I grew up in New Jersey, and I lived for the summer. It was only 3 short months out of the year, but
Went to the beach every day.
I went to the beach every single day from Memorial Day to Labor Day. And also grew up sailing around the Jersey Shore. And winters, I would hibernate. Hated the cold, hated the snow, but dealt with it as best I could.
What was one of your guys' favorite childhood memories?
God, there was so many. Favorite childhood memory. Well, that's a tough one.
That is a tough one.
I had a bunch. Obviously Christmas mornings were always really, really special. My mom was a big crafter. She was big into decorating. The house was always really done up at Christmas time. Christmas held the majority of my childhood memories, I think. Thanksgiving was big. I had a lot of extended family in the area. Your dad, and uncles and cousins, and we'd all get together over the holidays from Thanksgiving on. Those were a lot of my fondest memories growing up, was the holidays with family.
Mm-hmm. I have to say about the same, but also vacations that we would take. We every year, or what felt like every year, we would take a trip from New Jersey to Florida to visit family, friends, and we always drove. and that was always the big adventure, was the road trip. And a lot of times it was in February, and we'd encounter snowstorms, and one year we ventured home. We were on our trip home from Florida, and friends of ours that we visited along the way in Florida had just found a mommy dog and her pups, and for whatever reason, when we asked my mom if we could bring one of the puppies home, she actually said yes. And that was in a snowstorm, about, probably 18 hours worth of a snowstorm, driving with this newborn pup that shouldn't have been away from its mama. And somehow, some way we managed, but that's one of my fondest memories of Patches that we had for all of a year. She turned out to be a hellion. We took her out of her Florida environment.
She wasn't happy about it.
No, she wasn't. Animals, dogs and bunnies and hamsters and guinea pigs and fish, they were all a huge part of my upbringing as well. I wanted to be a vet early on, and so kind of any animal I asked for, within reason, my parents would oblige.
What from today do you wish you were able to have when you were younger?
Wisdom.
That's a good one.
Yeah, the wisdom that I have right now. Yeah, absolutely. If I had one thing that I could have that I have now, back then when I was younger, it would absolutely be wisdom.
Well, and kind of along those same lines, what we didn't have that the kids today have is the internet. And with the internet comes that wisdom that we didn't have.
Sure, knowledge.
Right at your fingertips. So, it's kind of a double-edged sword that the technology of today is good in so many ways and awful in so many other ways. But that's one thing I think really separates how we grew up versus how the kids are growing up in today's world.
Did you guys have any kind of family traditions or holiday traditions when you were younger? And if so, have they changed as you've gotten older?
Yeah, everything changes, unfortunately. We had a tradition at Christmas that my brother Jay and I, used to be able to open one gift on Christmas Eve. But that doesn't seem as if it's nearly as popular as it used to be. I don't know. It was just, you were chomping at the bit so bad waiting for Christmas, you couldn't wait for it to get there. That I think it was just some parent along the way finally got tired of telling the kids they can't open anything and just decided to let them go ahead and open one gift on Christmas Eve just to shut them up. But other traditions, just like any others, turkey for Thanksgiving and family getting together.
Easter egg hunts
out
at
in the
Easter
yard, I don't think our traditions growing up were any different than any others. They've gotten a little different.
Well, I think the difference, and the difference, there's the Elf on the Shelf now, which is a newer tradition for both our families, which my children never had. Being a little bit older, they were after the Elf on the Shelf craze. Or before, their time was before that, and it was not a thing. But, our tradition was always putting a plate of cookies and milk and carry it out, the night before on Christmas Eve for the reindeer and for Santa. Something that's new in my world, too, is the reindeer food. That was never a thing that we had.
Oh, yeah, that's new.
And with technology, again, in playing a role, there's the Santa tracker that I think is really cool.
Yeah,
You can follow where he is around the globe on Christmas Eve.
Cool.
But our traditions, unfortunately, like Bill said, things do change, and we always spent it with extended family, and now we're all over the country, and extended family is extended further away. So I feel like our holidays are smaller than what they were when I was growing
Absolutely.
up.
Much.
And even since I've moved from New Jersey to Florida, my kids, are kind of missing out on the bigger holiday traditions that we used to have.
Yep.
But not that they're missing out on anything else.
Yeah, right. They don't want anything. But yeah, just the fact that family, you go from having housefulls after houseful after houseful, and almost to the point where you feel as if, oh my God, it's so much, to then, like right now, Jennifer and I are sitting in this house all by ourselves, and there's not another soul around.
Except Sam.
Except for Sam, and, staring at the Christmas tree.
Presents still under the tree that we still have to celebrate with Allison.
Just weird.
Mm-hmm.
How has the prices and things changed through the years?
I still have no idea how, I talk to some of the kids that I work with that work with us, and they're telling me they're looking for a new apartment, and, this one's only $1,100 a month. Like, they're 23, 22, 23, 24 years old. And, only making $16, $18 an hour, which is a good wage, but back then, even when I was making that kind of money, apartment living was, $400 or $500 at the most a month. I mean, that $1,000 a month mortgage was ridiculous back then. I just don't know how the cost of housing has gotten to the point where it is now, where you're paying $1,000, $1,200, $1,400 a month for a 2-bedroom apartment. I don't know how that happened. Nothing else seems to have jumped that much. Gas is pretty close to what it's always been.
Groceries. I find that the price of groceries has increased.
Yeah.
Over the years.
A gallon of milk's almost, $4 or something like that. Yeah, it's a little silly, but
yeah.
I think just rent is and mortgage is really what blew me away. I mean, the first house I bought, I think my mortgage was $479 a month. 25 or 30 years ago.
But now, by that same token, that's what a car payment is, isn't it?
Yeah,
which is
incredible.
insane. I mean, a Ford pickup truck is $80,000.
Yeah.
Which is more than your first house.
Yeah, I spent $63,000 on the first house I bought.
Yeah.
The truck I'm driving right now costs, $60,000. It's incredible.
Yeah.
What was your favorite time frame in life?
I liked my high school years. But then that you can't really compare to my childbearing years and having 3 kids. So they're both so special in such different ways. But those would be my favorite times, were the carefree, fun high school years, and then just being mom and having babies that are so dependent on you, and that's super special to me.
Do I get any points if I say the last 4 years since we've been together?
Oh.
It was high school for me too. Maybe even just a little bit before junior high, all the way through high school. the motocross days from 12 to 17, still playing baseball, and then just all my friends and all the things that we did in high school. High school was definitely top of the list. If not, it was top 3. If not,
and I think too, you don't realize
just the
how
innocence.
special those years are
Yep.
until you're out of those years.
Yeah.
I think I was reminded of it more so when I had my 30-year high school reunion this past summer, and just seeing all my high school buddies all over again, and just telling stories, and just really realizing how they were some special years.
Yeah, you don't take advantage of it when you're in the moment, but boy, you sure do look back at it fondly. And
you know what? And the whole schoolwork and all that, and you're going through it, and it seems so grueling at the time. You don't remember that part of it. You remember the fun. You remember the
football games,
the friends that you make during those years.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any crazy family stories?
That are PG-13?
It could be PG-13.
Crazy family stories. Well, I've got one, but it's from my very early days, which is one of probably my kids' favorite stories that I tell. I was probably about 7 years old, and my younger brother was about 5. And I was with my mother and my grandmother, and my grandmother was elderly, and she lived alone, but we'd visit her once a week, and my mother would always take her grocery shopping. So we're at the grocery store, and my mom and grandma are getting ready to check out, and I went with my younger brother up to the front of the store where they had all the bubblegum machines and all. And I lifted one of the little flaps on the bubblegum machine, and there was a toy. There was one of those plastic balls with a toy inside that was just sitting there. So I took it, and I was like, oh, wow, this is great. I've got a little toy. And my little brother said, well, I want one too. And I said, okay. And me, big sister, was going to get him his own toy. So I stuck, and I had no money, so I stuck my hand up inside the machine. And I was only petite and little, so my hand kind of went right up in there. And the way that these machines work, you put the coin in and you turn the dial, and it rotates and in the inner workings, and it drops one toy out. Well, I was able to get my hand up in there, and it twisted and locked right on my wrist. And I felt it, and I pulled, and every time I would pull to get my arm out, it would lock down. It was like wearing handcuffs. You know, when you pull on handcuffs, they lock even tighter. So I kept pulling and pulling and pulling, and now I knew, oh my gosh, my hand is stuck in this machine, and I start screaming. And now I'm screaming bloody murder, and a mother always recognizes her own child's scream. So she sends my elderly grandmother to come to my rescue, and she sees my arm up this bubblegum machine. And I'm hysterical crying at this point, thinking I'm going to live out my rest of my years with this machine on my arm and lugging it all over the place. Well, she went to the front desk. They didn't have the key to open it because it's some vending company. They called 911, and the emergency crew shows up, and they run down the aisle where the dish soap is, and they come back with this little bottle of Palmolive dish soap and squirt it up in the machine, and my arm slips right out. And I had not even broken skin. I wasn't bleeding, nothing. I was just slightly bruised, and that was the end of the day. And my mother said, don't you ever leave my side again. And I said, but I just wanted to get John a toy. So we both went home.
And I don't think I have any crazy stories.
Okay, sis.
Oh, yeah?
Mm-hmm. It was just everyday life growing up at my house. We always had the house that everybody kind of gravitated to when we were kids. My mom was kind of like the team mom for the neighborhood. My dad was away a lot on business. He traveled a lot, overseas a lot. God, I wouldn't even know where to begin. Growing up, geez, so many camping trips to East Lake Fish Camp with your dad and your uncles Mike, Letty, and Jay, and just so I wouldn't even know where to begin. I'd have to, entire weeks at in the infield of Daytona at the 500. We could talk for hours about any of those stories. Well, actually, I don't know that any of them would be overly appropriate for a school project.
That's like PG-13.
I've really got to try and think of something a little more G-rated. But God, so many. I mean, not one that I can think of off the top of my head. I do remember once when your dad was living with us, finishing high school. I used to get away with bloody murder with my brother. I'd antagonize him to the point where he'd hit me, and then I'd, go tell Mom that Jay hit me, and Jay'd get in trouble. Well, I remember sneaking into your dad's bedroom once, and I was going through his stuff. He had some stuff on the nightstand or whatever it was, just personal items, keys, wallet, watches, things like that. Nothing of, that I was going to take or nothing of any value. He walked in on me, and he grabbed me from behind and spun me around and picked me up and just held me up against the wall with my feet off the ground. And he goes, and don't ever go through my personal items like that. He goes, I'm not going to. I will kill you. All right? I'm not restricted from killing you, okay? I'm not going to get put on restriction, just because I came in and no. So just don't touch anything. And from that point forward, I never touched anything more. I had an understanding when I was 11 or 12 years old, and that was the first and last time I ever did it. He goes, you can go and tell, your mother anything you want. It's not going to, take away from the fact of the matter that I will still kill you.
And your mother probably would have said, yes, William, what are you doing touching
Leave Marshall's thing off.
Stay out of his room.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember how my dad would always say every time you and my dad would go back home to Bev's place and stuff, and you guys would sit down for dinner, she would always hear a new thing that you guys did in high school that she didn't know about.
Absolutely, yeah.
In the later years.
Yeah, after my father passed away and Mom sold the house and got her own place, to kill the loneliness and the monotony once a week, she would have, I think it started out as once a week, and then I think over time it knocked back down to about once a month, but she would put on this elaborate meal of whatever we all decided on the time before that we wanted her to make. And we'd all sit around the table. Yeah, it was your father and I and Mike and
when Rick goes
and Jay. Yeah, a lot of times Rick would go. Rick was always
the honorary cousin.
Yeah, he was always Son number 3 is what Mom called him. And so so it'd be 5 or 6 of us, at this, now full grown men sitting around the table, and then just Bev, just my mom, and at this point she's well into her 70s. And boy, the stories that would go around that table, and you'd look over at Mom, and she knew that if she just sat over there and didn't ask any questions or didn't scold anyone for
anything that was
then more information she would gain. And she'd just sit there
and let you guys spill the beans.
With her jaw on the ground in complete total disbelief as the stories bounced around the table. It was priceless. It was pretty neat.
Awesome.